Guys, welcome back to another episode of It's a Man's World podcast. Today I have a very different episode of what I'm going to do. Normally I have like a little bit of a brief, an organisation of like what I'm going to go through.
Yeah.
And we're going natural today. We're going off the cuff. There's no briefs. And this is just like a free fall episode with hopefully a lot of value and inspiration as always. And my guest today, Isaiah, is down from New York.
Yep, New York, yep.
And I've been following you online only a couple of months and I just loved your content and I loved like, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
I don't know much about you either. And I just felt like when I was listening to like your message and like the way you were speaking and just the realness of it, it was just relating to me. Every post I was like, I love that. And that's why we connected and I was like, if you're down here, I'd love to get a podcast in. And that's really how it all started. So if you're wondering how we kind of know each other, it's all through the power of social media. And
Beautiful.
People are either love social media or they hate it. It's powerful in its way. And I'd love to find out about you. I know that listeners want it, but like I would love to find out about you, like
Definitely.
and where your story and all has kind of started.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say I appreciate you for, reaching out and taking the time. I've been following you as well, and I think what you're doing is really inspiring. It's definitely inspired me, so I'm grateful that we could share this space together and have this conversation.
For sure.
So, yeah, thank you. So, obviously, like the type of content I try to make is, we were talking about it a little off screen, really authentic and just kind of expressing who I am and the things that I've been through. I feel like for a lot of us, our childhood and early experiences shape who we are as adults. And so, for me, my childhood was very unique, very open. I went through things personally with family and things of that nature. But I feel like my mom gave me the best gift that you can give any kid, and that's unconditional love. I feel like that allowed me to kind of be curious and try a lot of different things and figure out who I was. And it really wasn't until I got to college, my junior year of college, I was playing college basketball at the time, where my life kind of took a turn. And I really experienced, a season of drastic mental health challenges during that time. And it gave me a very eye-opening epiphany. And that was, I had been living, the past 20 years of my life kind of just going through the motions, floating. I was religious at the time, all that type of stuff, but never really figuring out who the person in the mirror was. And I feel like when I kind of got forced into solitude, forced into isolation, that question came up, and me not being able to answer that really scared me.
Wow.
And so, I really started to go down that journey of, the inner journey, as I like to call it, of figuring out who I was, figuring out, why I'm here and what are the things within myself and what are the things that are holding me back from really feeling like I'm living in my truth. And that was a very scary process, because I think in order to really find yourself and to step into everything that is for you, you have to let go of everything that isn't. And I think that's probably the most challenging part that, people struggle with, is the letting go phase, because it's not just personal things, it's also people, environments, habits, perspectives, mindsets, all that type of stuff. So that kind of was the journey that got me started on this path.
I love that. Amazing. You say you were religious and you kind of had dropped. What was that moment there that you're talking about where like you wanted to really kind of discover? Because I know for myself, like what you're saying there, I can relate absolutely. But I know for a lot of people, they're like, what is that moment? I feel like something has to happen in your life that like crashes you right down, that you're like, shit. But I think deep down you're like, this is not true happiness, or is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the moment I remember, so to give you some context of what happened, so it was April of 2021, my junior year of college. I actually ended up in a psychiatric hospital. I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, put on medication and all that type of stuff, and there was no like prior signs that this would happen. It kind of came out of nowhere. And when you're in the hospital, there's no phone, there's no TV, you don't know anybody in there, so you're isolated. And it was in that moment where I had realized, like, okay, I do not know who I am, and before I believe in anything outside of myself, I need to go down that journey first. And so that was kind of the moment where I said, it's not like I'm saying there is no God or forget Christianity or any of that. I was just like, I just feel like what's right for me right now is figuring out who I am, because I feel lost. And I've been believing in this thing, and it's not that it's like, it's not like I had negative experiences. It just wasn't, there was no real inner feeling, inner emotion, you know what I mean? And so I think around April was really that time, or 2021 was really that time where I stepped away, and I really started to dive into all religions, all spiritualities, and really opening my mind to what was out there. And I started to pick up on things from all that really resonated with me. And there was one central theme that was in the midst of them all, and it was love. It was really love, love for self, love for others, love for God. And so
I love that.
I really kind of started to go down that journey of saying, you know what, if I just live my life rooted in love, trying to be as authentic as I can be and serve people in the best of my ability, I feel like that in itself will bring me to the right places. And
wow, that's
luckily
gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love that. So it was the breakdown basically for your breakthrough that really kind of gave you that moment of like, this is what I need to do for myself, because you wouldn't have been able to do that if you had distractions on your phone and not in solitude. So as much as you look at it in like a very scary part of your life, it was probably the thing that the pivotal moment that changed your life.
Oh, you hitting. And this is where a lot of people, when they hear me say this, they think like it's kind of wild. But like I tell people all the time, it was the greatest blessing of my life, being diagnosed and being put in the hospital, because from April of 2021 to April of 2022, I ended up in there 6 times. So it was in and out, different medications, all different type of stuff. Still trying to juggle like basketball and social life and all that.
And like, if you don't mind me asking, like, where did that kind of come from? Like, if you were saying like, obviously you had unconditional love, like from your mom and stuff, that sounds like you're in college, you're doing good, you're living in America, like you're from here. Like, is that like, what was it like that moment? Or in general?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so leading up until like I think around my sophomore year of college, it was like 2020. It was right when COVID got announced. I got into smoking marijuana. I never smoked prior. I never drank, none of that, right? And I wasn't much of a drinker anyway, but I really started to smoke heavy. And I think I'm not somebody that's like anti-marijuana, but I think you have to know yourself, and everybody's different with it. And for me, it kind of took me down a path of where I started to become dependent on it. I started to visualize my whole life where I was waking up every day, all day, doing this, still doing all my other stuff. And, I think, this is what I do believe in God. I do believe in a higher power, because I do believe that each and every one of us has a specific destiny. That's the highest, most aligned version of ourselves. Now, you can choose, because of free will, you can choose any path. But I think there is one specific path, and I think the universe is going to do everything in its power to get you on that path. And so for me, I feel like that moment was being diagnosed and me kind of hitting rock bottom and realizing, hold on, like, even though these things don't look that bad and I'm, doing fine, grades are good, I'm doing really good on the court, social life's great, this isn't the aligned, authentic path. And if you really want to, reach the best version of yourself, it's going to require you to go through some of this struggle first, like you said, the breakdown for the breakthrough. So I think that was some of the stuff leading up. It wasn't anything like crazy traumatic. It was just kind of doing things that could have definitely taken me down a whole nother path, if that makes sense.
And I feel like in America, like since I'm here, there's a big thing around weed and like the amount that they do it at home, but like it's not to the extreme of like here. And I know like when you're very connected with yourself spiritually, it's different and it's a different experience. Like people actually use it to a higher level, and like they know it's like once a week or once a month, or if it's for a journey, if it's mushrooms or whatever it is. But like when you are addicted to it, because I know I have family members that are, and I can see how you wake up, I can see the tiredness, I can see the lack of concentration, the lack of awareness of where you are every day and how you rely on it, and if you don't get it, the way you turn as well. Ooh. And that's a scary place to be, because I've seen it and I know what it can lead to, and I've seen the addictiveness of it as well.
Yes.
Was that something that you experienced as well?
Yeah, I think in my family we just have an addictive personality. Yeah. And I definitely felt myself, because that was something that was eye-opening to me, where I would see like certain peers or friends of mine being able to just put it down easy, and I couldn't do that. And I was like, yo, how are y'all not this, like attached to it as I am? Like, I love this. And so I was kind of seeing signs that it was definitely something that I was getting addicted to, and I'm fully okay with saying that I definitely was addicted. Like I was, every day.
And addiction, and everything in moderation. But when something becomes, nothing is good in addiction. Whether it's going to be someone that you love, whether it's going to be a friend, whether it's someone that you rely on, something or a substance that you rely on, not good.
You hitting.
It's not good.
You hit. And I think I was just actually talking to a friend about this recently. Like, you know, people will say, oh, weed's not an addictive thing. But that's not the part that gets you addicted to it. It's the emotional attachment to it. It's the way that you go to weed to, whether it's like, oh, I feel anxious, I'm going to smoke. I'm angry, I'm going to smoke. I'm stressed, I'm going to smoke. So you start to attach certain emotional triggers to smoking, and that's where it can become an addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like anything in life. And that's why I think, and I really want you to kind of touch on this too with your story, but I think a lot of people, you know, they stay in environments, relationships, or situations that, even though they're hurting them, are so incredibly difficult to leave because of that emotional attachment.
Yes.
I feel like if I don't have this thing, I'm losing a part of myself, or I'm not whole, or I'm not okay. And it's like, even though this thing is bringing me pain, I can't leave it. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. And I will put my hand up and say I used to be like that if I had someone there, like my mum and dad got divorced like years and years ago, and he was never really part of my life up until a certain degree. And I always used to wonder why I always wanted a man there. And it was because that absence was gone. You know what I mean? But I never fully trusted the man that I was with. I would always have this thing of like, what's going on? Because there was always lies, and there was always like deceitfulness and anger and all that around supposedly what was called love, which I didn't know that's not real love. And most people, most family members in my family, like they have gotten divorced. And I was like, in my head, I always knew, I don't want to live like that. But like, is it possible like that you can have someone that like you love forever? And I had this idea of love and having that attachment style and emotion towards another human being. And like, I'm independent, you know what I mean? Like, I'm independent. So if I was feeling something like that, keep it in between. Let's not look at other people. Everyone's different. But when you look at me, like, I'm very self-sufficient. Like, I'm independent. I'm strong about who I am, what I do. I'm passionate about what I do as well. But my thing was, my business and my life and everything was all revolved around what I've built in order to replace the feeling of that gone. So like, my thing was like, I'm gonna show a man like that I can do this by myself, because look at my mom, she's independent. She can do this. And my attachment and that emotion that you're talking about was the wrong emotion and drive towards what I wanted to build. You know?
You're hitting. And yeah, I want you to speak on this too, because have you seen a shift in the driving factor towards, you know, the things you're trying to achieve? Because I feel like there was a thing I learned where there's goals that are set out of desperation, and there's goals that are set out of inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
The desperation is kind of like the first half of what you said. Like, I'm going to show y'all. It's from that like void that you feel within. It's like trying to prove yourself, trying to gain external validation. And then there's the things that you pursue out of inspiration, and that's like, no, this is just aligned with the highest version of myself. This is rooted in love. This is rooted in service. This is rooted in authenticity. Have you felt like there has been a shift in your life towards
crazy? Like crazy. I you know the frequency, fear or love?
Ooh,
which one do you want? There's
Come
nothing in between. It's fear or love. And that was something that has sank in with me in the last year. I'm like, okay, right, am I going to attach the fear? Because you can decide what you want to attach to any emotion that comes up. You can decide what you want to feel. I can feel happy about this, or I can feel like, oh my God, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's your choice, and no one else can make that for you. But I noticed when there was stagnancy, I was pointing the finger of like, what's going on today? But I was doing it out of like, I want to make all this money to prove to this. And then I was like, to show my worth and to show like, I can do it. Like, I'm a girl from Dublin that hasn't like, it's like, right, so you're doing it out of the wrong frequency. So what happens? It gets you to a point, I have to admit, like when you're in a position, I feel like where you can use it as fuel to your fire, your setbacks and things that happen to you, absolutely 100%. But there has to be real purpose and passion towards what you're doing to make it work and long term.
You hitting.
You know? Yeah. Because if not, it will catch up and you'll get to a point where you're like, I'm not really that happy. I'm not really, this isn't really working. And you're like, oh shit, what's not clicking right now? And it's you. It's not anyone else. It's not the business, because I now wake up and of course sometimes I'm tired and sometimes there's a lot going on. Like, we're human, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, oh my God, every day I jump out of bed, because sometimes, I might go, oh snooze, even though I don't want to do that. I may do it here and there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm human. And I know now that like the people that are in the business, the way I am, how I show up and the energy that I'm bringing is just our pure like deep knowing that I'm helping other people, and that's what I love.
Come on.
You know?
Yeah.
And now look what happens. It's all just abundant. Everything just flows. And it keeps, more abundance just keeps coming. But when I was going out of the frequency of like, look at me, prove your point. I'm in a relationship with someone last year that I was trying to beat him all the time.
Wow.
That's not
Wow. Yeah.
Don't try and beat your partner. Like, there's healthy competition, and then there's competition where deep down in my heart I was like, he's not beating me.
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. What was the switch? Like, what happened in your life to make you go from like that desperation, that ego, to like more rooted in love and service and purpose?
Yeah, so a year ago I went through the breakup after like 4 years.
Gotcha. Oh, you guys were together for 4 years.
4 years,
Wow.
yeah. And we were like the lockdown couple. So like we got together because neither of us probably wanted to be alone in lockdown, and it was like we could both travel. We were, at that time, we both moved our businesses online. So it was the comfort of, oh, you can do it, I can do it too. This is great. This is happy Larry.
Yeah.
Even though like neither of us were, I don't think deep down truly happy. There was a lot that happened that I bypassed it, and I always excused the behaviour. But I'm going to say, there's two parts to play in every situation, right? And I used to point the finger at him and say, the reason I'm not with him, or the reason this isn't working, is because he cheated, or he done this, or he done that. But then again, I look at it and I now flip it and I say, okay, he probably did cheat because I was working 24/7. I probably had no emotion towards him. I was just like, leave me alone, go away. So naturally, it works both ways. So before you point the finger and say someone had cheated, yes, it's wrong, but it also comes from my side too. So I feel like the love that I have right now, like I send that to him, I send it to myself, and I never used to. Oh, I would not. I'd be like, oh, like I would slate him to the grave, like this man is not getting away with it.
Yeah.
So that was like the pivotal moment for me. Like this time last year when I was going through that time, I was like, we were talking about building a family, a life, and like you can settle and you can deal with that, and to try and work through it or whatever, of course. But when you know deep down that this isn't what you truly want, what do you follow? So I followed my heart. For the first time ever, I followed my heart, and look where it led me. I took a one-way trip to Miami, and I changed my whole life around.
And look what you're doing now.
Exactly.
Flourishing.
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's the breaking moment for me was the breakup, and that was like the hardest part. But now, like, oh my God, I'm entering like a new era of myself, and the work that I've done over the last year.
Come on.
It's been deep.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see. It really is.
You know,
and
so that's how it all happens.
Yeah, I feel the energy too. And going back, I know this is your, but we're gonna ask each other questions. What's the balance? Because I've heard this is a topic I've also talked to a lot of people about. Like, what's the balance between, as a woman, being independent, but not closing yourself off to like men and saying like, oh, I don't need y'all and all that stuff. Like, what's that balance of like healthy like independence? Like, I can take care of myself. I have self-love, self-respect, but at the same time, I do like still know that I do want a partner in order to like have that family and be able to flourish in my feminine, if that makes sense.
So, you know, you've got your masculine, you've got your feminine. My masculine was something I lived in forever, like my whole life, like, you know, and my feminine was something that I was so afraid of, that I was just like, it made me feel so uncomfortable, even though like naturally now, like I am who I am, like and people are like, you're so sexy lately, and I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm like, oh my God, yes I am. But that's because I'm like in my feminine, and I can really tap into it, and I don't feel awkward, and I can just feel for whatever way I could, and I could never do that. So I think any women that are in business and have this shield and guard up always wants love, right? So I think as an independent businesswoman, and like, let's just call it entrepreneurship, you have a harder skin. You do. You have a harder skin. And I feel like that's, if you've made it to a certain level, you didn't get there through love. Well, you did, but you didn't get there through like, look after me and bow down. You know, you got that through grit and masculine energy.
Absolutely.
You know, you got it through that energy. So when it gets to a point of like, okay, I've got this far, you know who you are, you start like pulling back the layers. You have to ask yourself, and this is what I have done personally, I know that energy gets me so far, but I want to be able to, I wouldn't say bow down, but I would like to be able to meet the partner that I'm with and have that like nurturing love, that protective space, a place that I can feel feminine. Most men that I have probably been with, I can't feel feminine with, because like I feel a little bit stronger. And like that's, I think at the time it was an ego thing, but I think for any women that are kind of in the same position maybe that are listening, it's a very different energy to be in, and you have to be vulnerable, and you have to drop down. You have to drop down into your heart, and like you can still be masculine, feminine as well, have really successful business, have your drive, but you can also come home and drop into your heart at the end of the day, and you can come back and be the loving, nurturing girlfriend or partner that you are. And that's who I am deep down. I'm a softie deep down.
Come on.
Like on the outside, like I'm a hard shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I am, like my friends are like, Kira, you're so soft on the inside, and I'm like, I am. But I felt like I had never, when a real man and like true authenticity and confidence and knowing of who he is, you will know that energy because you've done the work yourself.
Ooh.
Yeah. And if they haven't, you won't connect with them.
You hitting.
Because you're like, can't.
It don't work.
I know that's like, there's a front on that. And I get to a point where I'm like, if you're gorgeous on the outside, you're very successful, but like you can't have a deep, intimate conversation, and you don't hold yourself well without looking around to see if everyone else is looking, I switch off.
Wow.
No matter how gorgeous they are.
Wow.
I don't do it. My thing now is, and that's because I've done the work, is what you put out is what you attract. You know, so I'm like constantly like peeling back the layers, learning more about myself, and my type has changed now over the time. And if you're going with the same partner all the time, it's because you haven't healed something deep down.
That's deep.
That's my opinion.
Man, you're hitting on a lot. That's beautiful though. That's such a beautiful perspective to have in a state of accountability that you've taken, because I think that's the first step in, awareness is the first step, and then taking accountability to going down that path. That ain't easy to do.
For sure. Yeah. And when you asked me that question there, I want to turn it back on you.
Please.
What is your opinion of a woman? Because a lot of men are like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Couldn't deal with an alpha female, but like an alpha female can be very soft, feminine and loving as well. And most men want the woman that's driven and has her own independence too. They don't like codependency. No one does. Business or not. What's your opinion of that, and how would you be able to navigate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I think energy don't lie. Energy is a big thing, and I think there's a big difference between somebody being driven and wanting to achieve personal things, and then just being like completely closed off and guarded because they haven't healed certain things within themselves. I know for me, I grew up with this, I didn't really have like a clear picture of like a man woman like dynamic, like a healthy one. It wasn't like, oh, it has to do this, that. I always like was wondering what that dynamic looked like, and as I've matured and gain a deeper perspective, I feel like depending on who the two individuals are, there needs to be communication, and there needs to be an understanding of who is this person in front of me and what do we need. Every relationship is going to bring something different, but I think at the end of it, the individual should do the work to find that yin and yang between them. Everybody's balance between feminine and masculine is going to be different depending on who they are.
Yes.
And so I think that's where social media can be a real damaging factor, because a lot of people base their whole, relationship journey off of what they see on social media. And it's like, listen, you got to cultivate a certain energy of authenticity and truth within yourself and start to align with people from that place, and you might attract a woman, like for me, I might attract a woman who's a little bit more into the feminine or a little bit more into the masculine, depending on who I am. And I'm okay with that. I think every situation, it's different, it's unique. Take it with a grain of salt, literally. Yes. And so, I feel like that's my balance. But there is a big difference. Like you can feel when a woman's a little too guarded, a little too like pushed off. Like I don't need you. Yeah. I'm
independent.
Yeah, I've always felt like that's a little like
too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, for a man, like a man has to be able to hold that place for someone. You know what I mean? That's
right.
That's a man's like role. Like he's the protector. He's this not a provider, but like a provider with love.
Yes, exactly. Provider does not just mean financial. It's all areas: spiritual, mental, emotional. Grounding and stuff like that. So
big time. Yeah, I love that. So it's nice to hear from both sides of obviously what people like, and it will come down to personal preference, but it will also come down to like what you said, self-awareness. When someone's self-aware, and my thing is like, I can tune so good right now that I feel like, have you ever seen like when a radio, you can turn the volume up, down, you can change channel if you want. Like I feel like I'm literally like that right now, that I'm like, if I'm feeling something, I'm like, nah, I'm not. I'll pull back, because I'm like, deep down, is this really aligning with who I am? I've done all the work. Are you gonna go down that same route again? Okay, be my guest, but don't cry down the line when you've got a family, when you've said you want to marry someone, you haven't got the happy life that you wanted because you haven't gone with your heart.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's a mistake. It's not a mistake, because I feel like I never say they're mistakes. They're always lessons, and you learn along the way. But that's a good slap on the back of the hand if you're going to learn a mistake like that when you've got a family. It's very different when a human is brought into the world, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't know personally, but I know from family and different people that like it's not a good dynamic.
Yeah, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Have you ever dealt with like limiting beliefs?
Yes.
Especially like I want to touch into that because
For sure.
obviously the journey I'm pursuing, the journey you're on, are kind of aligned in the sense of like having our own things and stuff of that nature. What was that process of you of like wanting to start this journey of like your personal brand, your coaching, all that stuff, having your own business, and then navigating those limiting beliefs that came up? How did you overcome them and get to where you are now? Like,
there's always going to be like bumps and things along the way, and there's always going to be that thing in your head being like, so it's always say for example, let's use a number, right? 20k. Okay, you think about that number and it's right there, and it's like, oh, you're starting here and you're a tiny little person, you're like, how am I going to get there? But like, my thing is like, I was so strong about belief and who I am and what I can do, and my mum believed in me since we were younger. Like, she was like, you can do anything that you want. And I used to be like, yeah. And she always used to say to me, never worry, because everything will work out in the end. So my thing was like, okay. So I always had this thing of, she used to always make it work regardless, whether it was like she had to run from one place to another, pick us up, drop us here, competitions, football, whatever it was, she would make it work regardless. So I always seen her as, no matter what happens in life, this woman makes it work.
Come on.
She just like does it all by herself, and she makes it work regardless. So I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Oh, she is part of me, you know? But my thing for limiting beliefs is, was I gonna let that hold me back? Or am I going to try and push through and just try? So that number that I had there and where you're starting is like, well, if I don't even try, well, then I'm never going to know what it feels like if I do get there. And it's not all about money, by the way, for people, because you might get there and you might be like, what's that feeling like now?
Wow.
It's quite numb.
Wow.
It's amazing. But then you're like, okay. But when you get there, you can celebrate your present and you feel it. Oh, that's a different feeling.
Come on.
You know what I mean? So I think when you have a limiting belief, you have to really write down. And I done this last night, which is so funny. I'm reading a book at the minute, and it's You're More Than You Think You Are. Okay?
Okay.
And in it, there was a journaling exercise, and it says, write down the things that you're scared of and what your fears are. So my fears include, and you write all the fears down. Right? And like, most of my fears were like, some of them were like business, and I was like, oh, I didn't think I had that fear. And then on the last page it was, what would it feel like if you hadn't got those fears? How would you show up? How would you dance? How would you feel? How would you look? Right? And I literally pictured myself, and then it says, take that page out and rip it up. And I ripped it up, and like, I completely like was like, yeah, it's not a fear. So I would say that's an exercise that people could use. It's so good.
I like that.
But it's a lot easier said than done when you've done it. And I know people look at me and they're like, how did you do it? Like, it's a lot easier said than done. But I know deep down, everyone has their own path, has their own purpose. And unless you try, you will never know.
Come on.
If you don't try, okay, don't try, but don't complain when you haven't got to where you want to be and the other person has, but you both started at the same time. Well, the difference between these two people in the race was that they moved and you stayed at the start line.
That's it.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to try? And like, everyone wants to know how. How are you going to get there? How am I going to do it? Listen, I'm launching a new business at the minute. Things are going great, but do I know how I'm going to get to the next point? Absolutely not. Do I? No. But what am I going to do? I'm going to put a plan in place and I'm going to try. If it fails, I'll try something else. It's all trial and error. That's what life is about. It's not meant to be, oh, I clicked that record button and we ended up down here. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. You know, and that's the thing. People are so scared of failing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's the limiting belief. It's like, you're telling your thoughts are the They're the strongest thing ever. And if you can control them, I'm a master of my mind at the minute.
Come on.
You know what I mean? I never was, but I always knew deep down I was destined for more. And I think that's where my limiting beliefs had kind of been like erased slowly. I still have them here and there, but I know how to navigate my way around them.
Yes, that's the key.
You know?
Oh, that's the key.
How about you?
Yeah, that's...
Because your story and the way you speak and your presence and how like the messages that you put out with your reels and all, where did that start from? I'd love to know, because that's not a limit. That's a limiting belief, because a lot of people would say, I'm not getting onto the camera.
I know, yeah, you're hitting. And I think it was, I think what you said about the trying, I mean, I always took the stance of a kid going to a playground for the first time. Like, you're going to try everything on there until you find the thing that's for you. Yeah. And something that I really approached, you know, when I wanted to start a podcast and start creating content and things of that nature, it was, I didn't run out and tell everybody about it. I said, I'm going to keep this between me and myself. I'm going to have this journey. I'm going to fail in private. I'm going to make mistakes in private. I'm going to succeed in private, just with me at first. Because for me personally, like, even to this day, I still am conscious and worried about what people think. I've just gotten to the point.
Why?
Yeah, I've just gotten to the point where I care more about what I think than other people,
Good.
right?
Okay,
so,
amazing.
Because I've always been that way. Like, I grew up a people pleaser, and so I'm always constantly like, oh, what will they think about this? What will that person think about this? But it's not a hindrance anymore. It's more of just an awareness. Like, I realize that part of me is still there, but I view it like a little kid. Like, I parent it now. Like, when I feel it's like, it's okay, we're good. Like, you can have those thoughts, you can have those emotions, you can have those fears, but it's going to be okay, you know. And that's how I really talk to myself, and that helps me to really navigate the times where I have doubt or where I worry, or even when I was starting, like, I don't know how, but you don't need to know how. You have the what and you have the why. Just focus on that.
I love
the
that.
how will figure itself out.
Exactly.
And that's where I really trust in divine timing. I trust in God. I trust in the universe, and
For sure.
I let things unfold as they're meant to.
Naturally.
Yes.
Like this episode naturally going. We've no pre-recorded questions. It's just flow.
It just flows.
You know, and
Come
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
What was the starting point of that though? Like saying, okay, like it's in your head, but you're like, I need to just try. I know people are still going to say something, but like, I'm just going to try it. And it's just that first little dip toe of the water.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's not that bad.
yeah, right.
But why did you start it? Like, what was your why? Because
That's good. So I did 6 years of school total for college. So my 5th year of college, I had transferred to a new school, and I was a lot more clear. This was after I went through that very, transformational year. I was a lot more clear on who I was and the types of things that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to live a life of service. I knew that I wanted to figure out what my gifts were and use them in service of others. And I started to go down that path of figuring those things out. I figured out that I had an ability to speak. I had an ability to articulate words. I had an ability to influence people in a positive way. I had a certain energy about me that people just gravitated towards me. I was like, okay, what things align with these gifts that I'm figuring out? Well, a podcast, YouTube channel, right? Creating content, that type of things. So I said, okay, well, let me start writing those things down and just putting them out there that I want this type of thing to come into my life. Halfway through my 5th year of college, I'm sitting in a room with 3 of my friends. Granted, I got the name Salt when I went to this school because we already had a dude on the team named Isaiah. Right. So my last name's Salter. So people call me Salt because of that, right? So I'm sitting in a room with 3 of my friends, and one of them was like, yo, when are you going to start a podcast, bro? We need you to be out there saying this stuff. And I was like, I don't even know what to call it. And one of the other ones was like, with a grain of salt. And it was like a light bulb moment. And I was like, oh, that's it. So I immediately went and wrote it down. And then I just started to cultivate some ideas and think about it for the next few months. And then June of 2023, I made my first piece of content where I went out on the street and I just interviewed people with my phone. Wow. And I had one of my teammates just record it on his phone. Then we edited it and we just slowly started taking steps. And I genuinely, it wasn't like I didn't go into it with like a very desperate, like egotistical approach. It was very open. It was very flowing. And I knew because of the name and how it came in and how I felt about it, I knew it was meant to be. Like, I knew deep down in my soul. I did not know how it was going to work, but I was like, this is meant to be cultivated, and it's something that's so much bigger than me. So I just need to focus on every single day, just taking one step at a time.
It's from your heart.
It was from my heart from the beginning, and that's what I'm grateful for too. I never fell into the trap of chasing. It was always a pursuit from passion and love and alignment, I feel like, you know, because I opened myself up to that. And it did take a lot of work that a lot of people didn't see. You know, when I was at home, it was like every single day before that year, I was going out into my backyard from like 8 a.m. to 12. And I was just sitting with myself, meditating, reading, journaling for hours, like just sitting there. And what I was doing without realizing it was I was changing my energy. I was changing my internal environment and shifting my identity. And when you change your internal environment, your external environment will follow. It is inevitable because, like you said, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I started to really be the person that I envisioned, I started to do things from that place and have things that were aligned with that. So it's a be, do, have. And most people, they do the have. They want have, and then I'll do, and then I'll be.
Yes.
You know, like, oh, once I get this thing, then I'll be happy. Once I get this amount of money, then I'll be at peace. Once I have this car or have this house, then I'll be fulfilled. But you're doing it backwards. You know what I mean? And you need to learn how to cultivate those emotions internally, become that, start to operate from that place, and then you'll attract things from that energy.
Amen. Yeah. Say it louder. That's going as a reel. 35 minutes. That's like, that is amazing because I always say, people are like, how'd you do it? Like, it's just so hard. And like, I always look at, when I'm talking to people, even on calls or anything like that, I'm thinking of like, this has actually nothing to do with the program. This has nothing to do with the gym. This is deeper. There's something going on here that like, they want to start this business. They start it, but they want the result overnight. And then it's like, if I even have a conversation or a talk with anyone in my life in general, and they're like, oh, the business just not going too good. Like, I'll be happy if I was just making this amount. Like, I will switch off. Like, I will naturally push back so far that, like, you won't get a conversation with me again.
Ooh, that's real, though.
I'm serious because I know, like, that energy is like, you're doing that out of like, it's a very negative energy, even though you don't think it is. But it's like the fact that frequency of money and that thing, of course it brings it to you, but you're gonna get that money through that negative energy. That to me is like wrong energy.
Yeah,
that's the wrong money that you want to have.
Come on.
Money comes through the right things and it just flows.
Yes.
And people say, oh my God, but does it make you money? I'm like, anything that you love to do, and if you're good at it, and if you're really doing it from like the bottom of your heart, yes, it will take time. Yes, it will take hours on end. You're going to have sleepless nights. You're going to be tired. Absolutely. I am not saying that you sit and meditate and it comes to you overnight.
Right.
But are you willing to do that? And are you willing to really step into, like, if you're running a business, the leader, the person that can go from one energy into the other when you come home? How do you switch off? If you are, I'm not ready for that right now in my life. I can say that.
That's real.
But I can also probably tap in when the right person comes along. But I'm not waiting anymore for that person to fill the voids.
Come on.
Same with the money. I'm not waiting for that money to fill the void. Okay, yeah, because I'm living here and I'm making a lot. Yeah, of course, that's amazing. But I don't look at that. I do it because I love what I do every day. I love the podcast. I love chatting to people. And I know from what you're saying there, and even the way you're speaking and like your Instagram and everything, I can tell you, I can guarantee you, mark my words, come back to me in like 3 years time, but I can guarantee you are going to be viral. You're going to do absolutely amazing because like I can feel that.
I appreciate you so much.
I honestly, I can. Honestly, truly. I really do. And I think that idea that you said about your friend just sparking a light with the right people around you, being like, come on, like, when are you sharing it? Encourage the people that are good at what they're doing. And if you're feeling a little bit insecure and like, I'm not saying that because you're jealous, it's like, what's wrong with you deep down that you need to look at? Because if you can support someone and push, and them saying that one thing to you has like flicked the switch, and you're like, right, I'm going to try it, because they believed in you. It wasn't, and that was probably the validation that you needed. Yeah. And a little bit of assurance that like, okay, the people that are closest to me right now are saying do it and go for it. What is that? Gotta
be for a reason, right?
You know, so like, they're blessings in your life. Maybe they're there still, maybe they're not, but like, everyone saying you should do that. If someone is saying to you, do it, oh my God, you'd be so good at that. And a lot of people are saying it, it's because you will be.
Right.
Come on.
You're hitting. Can I say one last thing?
Yes. No, go ahead. We keep going.
Okay. There's an analogy that has, when I heard it, it helped me tremendously just to navigate my journey in a more healthy way. It's the butterfly in the garden analogy. I don't know if you ever heard of that. So if you went outside with a net and you tried chasing after a butterfly, they're all going to fly away from you. right? Like if you had a goal, I want to catch as many butterflies as I can, and you go outside with a net and you try chasing them, they are going to fly away. But if you went to your backyard and you started to create a beautiful garden where your backyard was, you gave it, sunlight, water, the soil was nice, it smelled good, beautiful flowers, and you're just focusing on that every single day, making sure it's tended to and it's really nurtured and cared for, you're going to look up and there's going to be hundreds of butterflies wanting to be a part of that garden because you've cultivated the right soil and environment for them to want to come. And I think if people can take that viewpoint with the goals and the things that they want to achieve, it can really help them to stop chasing after things and start attracting things.
Wow.
Attract the butterflies by cultivating a good inner garden, right? An inner environment, rather than feeling like you have to chase. Because even if you catch that stuff, if you catch a butterfly in a net, the moment you let up, it's gone.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that was an analogy. When I heard it, it helped me tremendously.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
To move into that energy, yeah.
I love that. And what would you say for people that could maybe point out, it's too good to stop, we need to keep going, a few more minutes. Yeah. What was what would you say from the outer, or maybe someone that doesn't really have themselves or know themselves deep down, what are you saying would be those type of things to look out for in yourself for people that are I don't really know if that's what I'm like, for what you're trying to attract? Say for example, you're saying it comes from the inner, and then that's what's going to attract. What is it that people are attracting from the outside that's wrong, or that could be negative?
Oh, that's a good question.
You know?
So if you're constantly getting things externally that you're why does this thing always feel so contracted? Why do I always get involved with the wrong people? Why do I feel like it's so hard to try to achieve this thing and it never works my way? Why do I feel like things never go my way? That's not an external thing. That's an internal thing. And a lot of people, they try to change those external results by changing the external. The external is just the effect. The internal is the cause. Wow. You can't change an effect with an effect, right? So if you're seeing certain people or environments or things that are being attracted into your life and you don't genuinely like those things, you need to take space for you. And most people, this is what they don't do.
Can't.
This is the hard thing, the stillness. If you don't cultivate stillness in your life, just you and you'll never become aware of what's going on, and you'll never be able to shift into a new intention to bring new energy into you. So the first step, I think, is being able to put a pause on your life, right? If you're seeing a lot of things around you that you genuinely don't like, you want to see some shifts, rather than feeling like you have to work harder, rather than feeling like you have to fight harder, you have to resist more, take a pause in your life, wherever that is. Maybe it's going for a walk, some time in your room, going to a coffee shop just with you, and sit there and just see what comes up, see what thoughts come up, see what emotions come up. And if you don't like them, don't start running away and feeling like this is a bad thing. No, now you're becoming aware, right? And now you have to go down that journey of slowly shifting into a new version of yourself, into a more aligned version of yourself. And that's a process. But give yourself grace and you'll get there.
Yeah, and have patience. Patience is a virtue. And if you can't do it and you're oh no, but I have to do it, come on, we're all busy. You know what I mean?
Come on.
But you can sit down and you can sit there and go silent. And that was one of the reasons why I did not get a TV in my apartment.
That's that's fire.
He's leaving now.
I don't have a TV.
Do you not have one either?
No, I don't have one either. I
said I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I moved into my apartment, had absolutely nothing, and I was I'm not getting a TV. I was I don't need one. And then I was oh shit. A couple of months went past, friends and all left, and I was Jade's gone, what am I gonna do? I'm not going out to anyone, oh my god, shit. And then I had this feeling, and this would resonate with people. So there's the external thing. I thought the TV is the distraction. You switch off, you chill out. No. Switching off is sitting with your thoughts and sitting there, and just, even if it's switching off from your thoughts, it's just letting them pass through.
Ooh.
You know, because if not, then you're distracting it with the telly and the Netflix, and it's total external, what you're talking about there. And I was sat and I was just thinking, and I was that void that I'm feeling. So it's Saturday night, I'm good with not drinking and all, that's fine, but I'm kind of lonely, and I'm feeling a little bit oh fuck, what am I gonna do? And this was at the very start when I came here, and I was am I gonna start reaching out and going on a date with someone to feel that? And then I was no, you're doing that from the wrong frequency.
It's deep.
You're doing that from fear. You're not doing that because you love someone. You're doing it because you're lonely.
It's deep.
So what does lonely feel? Lonely fills with desperation. It fills with a void with the wrong things and substance.
Ooh.
And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going to sit here. And I sat, and I remember like thinking I hadn't even got a speaker at this time. Like, my apartment was silent. It was just me. And then I was like, oh, what was that noise? And then I was like, no. And like, I remember like even to this day, I'm like, no, I'm still not going to get a TV because sitting that morning space that I have and going back to my apartment and it being so quiet and just like, just zen. The most favourite time of my day is when I get up in the morning, when I plan out my day. I'm seeing numbers everywhere, and that just went 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, like right in front of me.
That's crazy.
Literally.
Yeah, that's wild.
And
that's wild.
I just know that like I just know in my head that if I can sit like this and if I can be so in tune with myself, you can do anything. When you can tap into yourself, game over.
Come on.
Game over. When you can step back and be like, don't need anything from the outside world, don't need validation, don't need to know what's going on in the news. I can switch off when I want. I'm free to go where I want. That's like, this is peace.
Yeah, that, oof.
You know, and I'm
peace.
not saying I'm fully at peace. Of course, I still have some things that I'm working through, but this is where the self-awareness comes in. When an emotion comes up, you can look at it and you can say, I'm going to work through that. You know what? I'm actually not going to react the way I normally would.
Come on.
And I'm going a different way.
Come on. You hitting now. I mean? Yeah, you hitting
That's
now.
how you're probably the same. Why do you not have a TV?
Yeah, no. I mean, I just don't watch TV.
No.
Like, I've never like went home and just been like, I just want to sit and watch a movie or watch TV or watch Netflix. That's just not me. Like, I'd rather put my energy towards other things. So I just never felt the need for it. It's not like I'm against them. It's just for me, But what you're saying about all that, I mean, it's the two keys I think that can change your life are awareness and intention. So awareness is you becoming aware of the things that are there. So conscious of the unconscious. I'm conscious of the emotions. I'm conscious of the thoughts that have been holding me down, all that stuff. And the intention is the desired reality, the vision, the more aligned emotions and thoughts that you want to bring into your life. So throughout your day and your life and your journey, it's not about being 100% perfect with everything. It's about having awareness for the times that you're falling off track, or maybe you're leaning into a limiting belief or leaning into a closed emotion. Bringing awareness there, and then bringing the intention that's aligned with your highest self. Okay, ooh. I'm aware of the limiting belief. I'm aware of that feeling of anxiety. And rather than resisting it and trying to fight it and feel like because it's there I'm doing something wrong, I'm going to take a step back. I'm a human being. It's okay. Let me take a breath. Tell it it's okay. Speak to your emotions. Speak to your thoughts like the little kids.
Yeah. And
then bring the intention in.
Wow.
And that will keep you moving in the right direction through the ups and the downs, the ebbs and the flows, the tough seasons, all that stuff.
Wow.
So,
well,
yeah.
That is amazing. I love that. That's another one.
yeah, it's a bar.
But you know what? When you say it's like bringing kids in, and what did you say? Like,
speaking to your emotions and thoughts like they're kids.
Speaking to them, yeah.
Speaking to yourself. Like
so do you think people, I feel like people, when that emotion comes up, they rely on someone else to tell them how they feel. And oh my God, you're anxious. Like the doctor will tell you have anxiety.
Yes.
Like, did you see Mel Robbins' new post, and that she was talking about, she was sitting at a table and she was like, never ever ever in the rest of your life ever say I have anxiety.
Yes, I love Mel Robbins.
You don't have anxiety.
Yes.
Well, like if you had been diagnosed, she had been diagnosed, so many other people that were sitting at that table said they had been, but you could say my anxiety is related to this today. So you're not attaching the word anxiety to yourself, and that's not your identity. And that's what so many people do. Like, I have anxiety, or I'm an anxious person. You're not, though.
Yep.
You've attached that emotion to yourself.
Yep. Come on.
And that's what's giving you your identity. So showing up every day and introducing and being like, yeah, well, like, he has anxiety. So that's what you're accepting. That's what you're going to tell yourself. So affirm it all you want, but what's going to keep coming? More anxiety.
Come on.
Isn't it?
Yes, you're hitting. That goes back to the be, do, have. So the being part is your identity. So anything you put after I am, that is usually where your identity is rooted. So most people is I am not good enough.
Yes.
I am worthless. Oh, I'm not worthy of love. I am not abundant. I am not happy. I am anxious. I am depressed. So it's like you just keep reaffirming your identity as all the things you don't want, rather than taking the stance of like, I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? What can this emotion of anxiety teach me? What is my body, my internal environment trying to reach out to me for? What nurturing is it trying to get from me? You know, and like you take a whole different stance and you stop placing your identity in these things and you start viewing them as signals. Like if you're driving a car and you have a flat tire, you want it to let you know that the tire is flat so you can stop and be like, okay, I need to change my tire. Right? You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I have a flat tire. This is the worst thing ever. I'm done. And just keep driving and feel like you got to just go off the road. You can't. You know, so just view the emotions and the things that come up, even the undesired things, as just signals to lean into. They're not things to run from. They're not things to fight. They're things to lean into. And when you start to shift your relationship to your thoughts and your emotions as guides and signals, it's going to drastically change your life and how you navigate every day.
You're going to end up at a totally different destination
in
a place that you've never been.
Looking like Sierra, I swear. Come on.
I have a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have 2 questions at the end, right? You can ask me one, is how I finish, and I'll ask you one.
Okay.
I have a question for my girls because I have a lot of girls in the community, big kind of audience here. It is more female based. And I want to know, what's the difference with, or how would you know the difference, or any advice for a man, maybe with a girl that's in a relationship right now with another man, and she's like, my partner just isn't emotions, like he's not in his emotion, like he can't even respond good, he's very like, I'm not touching on my emotions. Why do men not want to touch on their emotions? Because I know it's a masculine thing, but what's the difference? Because I know, because I've met someone. What's the difference with a man that's in touch with their emotion? And my thing right now is, if he's gorgeous and he's rich and he's this and he's that and he has a great body, but he is emotionless, I will run. Whereas the man that's like got himself, working on himself, self-aware, can touch on his emotions, that shit, that drags me in. What's the difference, and what advice would you give to someone maybe in a relationship with a man? That how would you approach that?
Oh, that's deep. I'm gonna take the stance of like, when you're looking for a man, right?
Okay, yes. Yeah, because it's different in a relationship. There's so many different dynamics.
Yes, I think everyone, not just women, but specifically women, you guys need to get really clear on really what you're looking for in a man. Okay. You know, a lot of people, they just look at the surface level stuff. You know, the car, the how much money they make, the career, what they look like, and all that stuff's cool. I'm not like, oh, don't pay attention to none of that. No. You want somebody that looks
after their health
and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think you really need to do a intentional look into a man's character and where they are emotionally. And how do you do that? Listen to them. See how they move. When you guys go on a date,
listen to them. Don't keep going, because we will go at it.
Come on. Listen to him. Give him that space to talk. And then see how he interacts with other people. Like if you go on a date, how does he speak to the waitress? How does he talk to the people?
Big one.
Yeah.
If he's rude, that's
all
a big red flag.
What type of stuff? When you do ask him questions, like, what is he bringing up? Does he keep trying to bring up achievements, accolades, what I'm doing? Or does he come from a more, in tune place of like, that's rooted in the right energy of like love and service and growth and healthy perspective, and make you feel comfortable around them? Yes. And then the most important thing for women, trust your intuition. I cannot tell you how many women I know that just they push away their intuition, and then they end up getting hurt or something goes wrong, and then they come back, I knew it. Trust it the first time. Just trust it. Please. You guys have intuition for a reason. You guys are so in tune emotionally. Trust your intuition. Yeah. Now, if you're in a relationship with a man, people don't change for other people. They only change for themselves. So you can't change a man into being more emotional, being more emotionally in tune and stuff like that. But you can be there and nurture and try to bring that side out of him in a very healthy, way. And that's by creating a space where he feels like he can do that. You know what I mean? I think a lot of women don't realize that a lot of men have their guard up because they feel like that is the dynamic of the relationship. This is why communication is so important. Make sure you let your man know, I'm here for you. This is an open space. And make sure you're there from when he does open up and he does try to be vulnerable. It might not come out clear. It might not come out as, sexy or whatever it is. But if he's trying, just keep leaning into that and creating that space. But it's a process. But be very, very intentional with, the type of men you're getting involved with, and pick up on the small signs early to see if they're in tune.
Big time. Oh my God, I love that. Them girls, you are gonna love this one. Okay. That's a big one.
And I'll ask Michael. Now we gotta
go
flip.
For it.
For like, from a woman's perspective,
yes.
What are some things that really, really stare out and are glaring for you guys when you guys are trying to get involved with men and stuff like that, especially a woman that's in tune. You know, I feel like a lot of men nowadays, they feel a lack of self-worth because they're not making a certain amount of money. They don't have a certain career. They don't drive a certain car. They don't live in a certain house. And that can be incredibly demoralizing for a lot of men out here. And I feel like that's not what relationships are about. And so, like, from a woman's perspective, what should a man really focus on to really attract the right type of woman into his life?
Yeah, I think out here it's a different ballgame.
It is, yeah. Florida, yeah, it's different.
It's so different, especially Miami.
Yeah, Miami's
you
different.
know, I mean, when you're out here, it is who has the fanciest watch on, who has the big necklace on, who's after arriving up in their Porsche, who's in the gym and everyone's all over, and it's all a competition. And I actually go the other way. I do my thing. I don't even do that because I just know deep down that if you were to get involved right now with a man like that, you're not going to have his full attention. Because he doesn't even have his full attention himself. He's looking for validation of everyone else in the gym. So my first thing is, if a man is in amazing shape, and I have learned my lesson with this, and if he can't hold eye contact and have a good conversation and be a gent and like very like just not creepy. You know, there's a lot of creeps. You have to, then you know that like they're a good man, do you know what I mean? And not everyone is like leeching on, and there's a very big difference between a man that's in his own confidence and holds his own space and holds his own energy, and you don't even care about the car and the money in the house. That's deep. You know what I mean? But you need to look at the girl. Right, so remember to play this part, you can't just point the finger at one if he doesn't, if he has the car, the house, or if he hasn't got any of those things that externally on the outside, because you don't know someone is what you're looking at. You need to look at the girl. What way is she going to him? I'm not shaming BBLs or anything, but if she has like a BBL, she's like walking around thinking like standing over people in the gym, you know that type of energy, and she's just not confident, right? She has all of that work done probably because she's not confident, and if you were really confident, you would hold yourself in a different way. And the way I hold myself is true confidence, and it's not looking for everyone else. I'm not looking for people to, yes, my glutes are out and they look good. Yeah, okay, I know they do, they look good, but I'm not looking for a man to like look at me like I'm not doing RDLs for you, I'm doing RDLs for me. And don't look at me when I'm doing them either, turn around. You know what I mean? So there you go. So I think it's like on the outside for a man. Turn around. Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? Are you lost? Do you want to use this?
I need to get the accent down. Turn around.
Turn around. I can't do it, but I think for a man, when a girl is so, you cannot miss it. If you're confident, of course your physique and your health is such a big thing. You have to be able to like stand your ground as a man, like with your fitness and your health. It's a big deal. You know, like you're not going to be attracted to someone that's very overweight if like they don't look healthy, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's not something that you would gravitate towards. Right. But when someone can make you laugh at a man, when he is a gent and very respectful to other people around him, you're naturally like, who's that? Yeah, he is gorgeous, and you're attracted, and you're like, everyone wants him. But also for a man, I know sexual drive is a big thing. When you hear a man that like doesn't watch pornography, when he isn't out on dates and having sex with people right, left, and for like center, like, and he's nearly celibate, you've won the golden ticket. So if you're not right now and you're sleeping around and you're the one that's out on all the dates, and some girl is like, I was with him, so was I. Did he say the same thing to you? Were you in his house? Yeah, that's like, that's a big no. Now some girls, there you go again, the energy, they would like that. I'll win him over because it's all competition. So I just think for a man, true confidence, how you hold yourself, being a gent and respectful, and also like being a protector. A woman wants to feel protected, even if you're not in a relationship with her. Like today, for example, at the petrol station, you call it a gas station.
What y'all call it?
You like what? Petrol station.
Petrol?
A petrol station. What do you call it? A gas station?
Yeah, gas station. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, at them petrol stations, I couldn't open my car. Okay. Right, I couldn't open the pump on it. It's a rental car at the minute, right? And I was like, how do you open this? Like,
yeah, okay.
And like, man came over, another guy came over, and they were helping me. And then they were like, "Are you good?" And I'm like, "That is just like, that's what a man should." Step in when a woman needs it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Be a gent. And I think you can bypass a lot of external things if someone internally is on a different level, but the girl has to be too. So deep. Your partner is just a reflection of you. Yeah. So the people that go on dates together, look at them, they're normally like each other.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you want different and you're like, I'd love a man like that, or like that's the type of person that I would love to be with or attract. Number one, from a man's perspective, if you want a woman that's respectful and she's this and she's that, you have to be that too. Don't say you're sleeping around and you're like doing all of these things and you're going home with girls and bringing 3 girls back to your apartment and all and showing off, but then say, but I actually want a woman that's like respectful. No, you don't. You want the idea of it because she's a trophy wife. It also fills your ego because it's like you have a woman that's a higher status.
Wow.
But she's not going to stay with you if she really is a higher status. And you won't even get there anyways. So at the end of the day, my thing is frequencies and energies will never, 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 ever lie.
Yeah.
It is impossible. It is science.
Trust it. You gotta trust it.
So that's what I would say. Like, I feel like there was key nuggets in this one, wasn't there?
Oh, it was beautiful.
That was so good. And this was just like free fall, and just like, as I said, when you know, like, I knew from looking at your Instagram, I knew from the message that you were coming across, like, we've never even met, like, you know what I mean?
Nope,
and like I said, like, listen, we're the podcast here, like, I'll pick you up, we'll do this or whatever. And then I'm like, I don't even know you, but I knew, I was like, because that's what I mean. Yeah. You just know.
Just the energy.
So you'll know straight away if something is off. It's off. Trust your intuition, like what you were saying.
Come on.
And yeah, I just feel like this is probably one of my favorite episodes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, really, really good. So I've one question though. This is the last one.
Go ahead.
What advice would you give for someone that is like wanting to get onto social media, because your presence is obviously amazing on social media? What advice would you be for someone that just needs to bite the bullet?
Oh, that's good. The first thing is that authenticity is your superpower. You be yourself. That is the first thing. And there's a big difference between comparison and admiration. A lot of people fall into the trap of comparing their journeys to other, rather than just admiring certain things that you like in other people's and then cultivating your own. So that's the first thing. And then be okay with not being good at first. You know, be okay with just trying a lot of different things and making mistakes, messing up, and just have fun with the process. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, I want people to really shift the way that they view social media to a creative outlet, not something where you have to portray a certain facade or character that makes, you know, other people validate you or look good to other people or whatever it is. View it as a blank canvas. That's a tongue twister right there.
Blank.
Yeah, view it as like an art gallery, and you're just putting up your art. You're putting up yourself. You're expressing yourself in different ways. Post what you want. Be free. And through that journey, you'll cultivate your unique path.
And the right people will flow
And the
to
right
you.
people. That's the people you'll attract. If you're trying to portray an image or a character that isn't you, that's the people that's going to follow you from that place. So if you want an authentic following-based community, whatever it may be yourself from the start and attract people from that place. And it may take time, but good things take time.
And what if people just want the money and the followers?
Don't start.
Yes.
Yeah, don't do it.
Because it won't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... don't.
You're doing it for the wrong reasons.
You're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? And it might be cool in the short term, but we don't want microwavable success. We want that oven roasted Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Full plate. Took a few days to marinate, you know?
Yeah, I love that. It's a process. It's a journey. But I'm excited to see where you're going to go.
Thank
and
you.
hopefully, I like to always say to people, like, a year down the line, I like to re-interview people and see where you're going to be in 2026. The only way is up for you, for sure. But thank you so much for coming on. Yep. Guys, where can they find you? And I'll leave your Instagram and stuff below as well.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So my podcast is called With a Grain of Salt, Waggles for short. Isaiah Salter X on TikTok and Instagram. Isaiah Salter on my YouTube, and then With a Grain of Salt on YouTube as well. So.
And by the way, yous will love this content.
Thank you.
Make sure, I know my girls will love it. Do follow, and you'll be inspired every day. Every time something comes up, I'm like, yeah, I just always resonate with it. So thank you for sharing, and yeah, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
All right.